The sound that echoed through the wedding hall wasn't music or laughter. It was the sharp crack of a hand meeting flesh. Malik's palm had just struck his mother's face in front of 300 guests, and in that single moment, everything he knew about being human began to slip away like water through broken fingers. His mother, Mama Dasi, stood frozen. The golden yale on her head sat slightly crooked now. A thin line of blood appeared at the corner of her mouth. The entire reception hall went silent. Not the kind of silence that comes before applause, but the kind that feels like the world itself has stopped breathing. Forks clattered onto plates. The DJ's needle scratched across the record. Even the children stopped running between tables. Malik's bride, Destiny, gasped and covered her mouth with both hands. Her white dress seemed to glow against the darkness of what had just happened. She looked at the man she'd just married like she was seeing a stranger wearing his face. "You dare disrespect me?" Malik shouted at his mother, his voice cracking with rage. "On my day? After everything I've done? After I made something of myself, despite you?" Mama Days didn't cry. She didn't scream. She simply touched her bleeding lip with trembling fingers and looked at her son with eyes that held something ancient and terrible. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet, but every person in that hall heard it as clear as thunder. "My son," she whispered, "what have you become?" The old woman who'd been sitting in the corner, draped in white cloth and cowrie shells, rose to her feet. Nobody had paid much attention to her before. Some guests thought she was just another elder, but now her eyes glowed with an amber light that didn't belong in the modern world. She raised one gnarled finger and pointed it directly at Malik. "The boy who strikes his mother strikes the very root that gave him life," the old woman declared in a voice that seemed to come from deep underground. "And a tree that murders its own roots cannot remain standing in the world of men." Malik laughed, actually laughed. "What is this? Some kind of juju show? This is 2024, old woman. Take your superstitions somewhere else." But even as he spoke, something felt wrong. His fingers tingled. The wedding ring on his hand suddenly felt too tight. The lights in the hall flickered, and for just a moment, Malik saw his reflection in the polished floor. Except it wasn't quite his reflection anymore. The eyes that stared back at him were changing, the pupils elongating into something that belonged to an animal, not a man. "Malik, baby, what's happening to you?" Destiny whispered, backing away slowly. He looked down at his hands. The fingernails were longer than they'd been 5 seconds ago. Darker, sharper. A wave of vertigo hit him so hard he had to grab the edge of the wedding cake table to stay upright. The 3-tier cake toppled over, crashing to the ground in an explosion of white frosting and red velvet crumbs. Mama Adais finally moved. She stepped backward, tears now streaming down her face. "My baby," she sobbed. "What did your pride do to you?" The old woman in white approached Malik slowly, her cowrie shells clicking with each step. "You have 3 days," she said. 3 days to remember what it means to be human. To remember honor, to remember love. If you cannot find your way back—" She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Malik tried to speak, tried to apologize, tried to explain. But the words that came out of his mouth weren't words at all. They were a sound halfway between a scream and a howl. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell because trust me, you need to see what happens next. What do you think Malik did to deserve this curse? Drop your theories in the comments below and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. 3 days earlier, Malik had been untouchable. Or at least that's what he told himself every morning when he looked at his reflection in the floor-to-ceiling windows of his downtown Chicago office. 28 years old, Mary, youngest partner at Henderson and Associates, driving a Mercedes-Benz that cost more than most people made in 2 years. He'd clawed his way out of the South Side neighborhood where gunshots were more common than birdsong, where his mother had raised him in a 2-bedroom apartment that always smelled like her night shifts at the hospital. "Mr. Okonkwo, your mother is on line 3, his secretary Jennifer said through the intercom. "That's the 4th time this week." Malik sighed and pressed the button without picking up the phone. "Tell her I'm in a meeting." "But sir, you're not—" "Jennifer, I'm in a meeting." He wasn't. He was scrolling through wedding venue options on his laptop, each one more expensive than the last. Destiny wanted the Drake Hotel. Her parents were paying for half, but they expected Malik to match their contribution, $60,000 for one day. His mother's apartment cost less than that for an entire year. His phone buzzed. A text from Mama D's. "Baby, I need to talk to you about the wedding. It's important." Malik deleted it without responding. He knew what she wanted to talk about, the same thing she'd been pestering him about for months. She wanted him to honor the old ways, to pour libations for his ancestors, to invite the elders from their village back in Nigeria. She wanted him to remember where he came from, but Malik had spent his entire life trying to forget where he came from. The roaches in the kitchen, the sounds of his mother crying late at night when she thought he was asleep, worried about bills she couldn't pay, the kids at school who made fun of his accent, his clothes, the strange food his mother packed for lunch. He'd buried that version of himself under 3 degrees, a wardrobe full of tailored suits, and a vocabulary scrubbed clean of anything that might remind people he'd once been poor. "Malik, baby!" Destiny swept into his office like a hurricane made of perfume and excitement. Her honey blonde hair caught the afternoon light. "I found the perfect centerpieces. Look." She shoved her phone in his face. The screen showed elaborate floral arrangements that looked like they belonged in a palace. "They're only $800 each," she said, "and we need at least 30. $24,000 for flowers that would be dead in 3 days. "Perfect," Malik said, forcing a smile. "Whatever you want, babe." Destiny kissed his cheek, leaving a lipstick mark he'd have to wipe off before his next meeting. "Oh, and your mom called me again. She keeps saying she wants to meet with us. Something about a blessing ceremony?" Destiny wrinkled her nose. "That's not like weird voodoo stuff, is it? Because my parents are already nervous about the cultural differences." Something hot flashed through Malik's chest. "My mother doesn't do voodoo. That's not even the right culture. And there are no cultural differences that matter. We're both American." I know, I'm sorry." Destiny held up her hands. "I'm just saying, maybe we keep things simple. Traditional church ceremony, normal reception, no extras." Normal, that word again. The word that had followed Malik his entire life like a shadow. The kids at school saying his lunch wasn't normal. His college roommate saying his music wasn't normal. His first girlfriend's parents giving him those tight smiles that said he'd never be normal enough for their daughter. "There won't be any extras," Malik said quietly. "I promise." That evening, Malik finally drove to his mother's apartment. He'd been avoiding it for weeks, but his guilt had finally outweighed his resentment. The building looked smaller than he remembered, more rundown. The elevator was broken again, so he climbed 5 flights of stairs that smelled like cleaning chemicals and fried food. Mama Daisy opened the door before he could knock. She'd aged in the months since he'd last visited. New lines around her eyes, gray threading through her hair more thickly. But her smile when she saw him could have lit up the whole building. "Malik, my son!" She pulled him into a hug that he returned stiffly. Come in. I made your favorite. Jollof rice and plantains." The apartment was exactly as he remembered. The same worn couch, the same pictures on the walls, photos of relatives he'd never met back in Nigeria. The same small altar in the corner with candles and offerings that made him uncomfortable. Superstitious nonsense, he'd called it once. She'd slapped him for that. The only time she'd ever raised her hand to him. He'd been 16 and thought he knew everything. "Mama, I can't stay long," Malik said, checking his watch. "Destiny and I have a cake tasting at 7. Her smile faltered. "You can't spare an hour for your mother?" "I barely see you anymore, Malik. You don't call. You don't visit. I'm busy building a life. Isn't that what you always wanted? For me to be successful?" "Success means nothing if you forget who you are." Mama Daisy gestured to the altar. "Your grandmother came to me in a dream last night. She says you're in danger. She says you need protection for the wedding." "Not this again." Malik rubbed his temples. "Mama, please. No dreams, no ancestors, no ceremonies. Can we just have one normal conversation? There is nothing more normal than honoring those who came before us." Her voice rose, sharp with frustration. "You think you made yourself, Malik? You think that degree appeared from nowhere? That office, that car, that life you're so proud of? It was built on the backs of your ancestors, on my back, on every sacrifice made so you could stand tall. I know what you sacrifice, Malik said coldly, and I'm grateful. But I'm not going to embarrass myself or Destiny by turning our wedding into some tribal ritual. Her family already thinks we're too different. I don't need you making it worse. The words hung in the air like poison. Mama Adasi's face went very still. You're ashamed of me. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. She turned away, her shoulders shaking. Get out, Malik. Mama, I said get out. He left. He told himself he'd done the right thing, that he was protecting his future, that his mother would understand eventually. He had no idea that he'd just set in motion the curse that would steal his humanity. And he had no idea that the old woman in white had been standing in the hallway, listening to every word, her amber eyes glowing with ancient judgment. The wedding was in 3 days. Malik's transformation had already begun. He just didn't know it yet. What would you do if your family's traditions clashed with your partner's expectations? Have you ever had to choose between honoring your roots and fitting into a new world? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And hey, if you're enjoying this story, smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Also, let us know where you're watching from. We love seeing our global audience. The night after Malik left his mother's apartment, he couldn't sleep. Destiny lay beside him in their king-sized bed, breathing softly, but Malik stared at the ceiling as shadows crawled across it like living things. His skin felt wrong, too tight, too hot, like he was wearing someone else's body. At 3 in the morning, he gave up and went to the bathroom. The face in the mirror looked like his, but something was off. His eyes seemed darker, more reflective. When he blinked, it took a fraction of a second longer than it should have, like his eyelids were heavier than they'd been yesterday. You're just stressed, he whispered to his reflection. Wedding jitters, that's all. But his reflection didn't look convinced. The next day at work, things got stranger. Malik was in a meeting with a major client, presenting a contract worth $2 million, when he suddenly couldn't remember what he was saying. The words dissolved in his mouth like sugar in water. He stood there frozen, while 6 pairs of eyes stared at him with increasing concern. Mr. Okonkwo, are you all right? The client, an older white man named Douglas, leaned forward. You look pale. I'm fine, Malik managed. But when he looked down at his hands gripping the presentation remote, his fingers seemed longer. The joints bent at angles that didn't seem quite right. He shoved his hands into his pockets and forced himself to finish the presentation on autopilot. Afterward, his partner Marcus cornered him in the hallway. Marcus was one of the few other black lawyers at the firm, though he was 20 years older and had taken Malik under his wing when he'd first started. Man, what's going on with you? Marcus asked, his voice low. You've been off all week. This is the biggest deal we've closed this year, and you nearly tanked it in there. I'm just tired. The wedding, you know. Marcus studied him with eyes that had seen too much to be easily fooled. This about your mom's? Malik's jaw tightened. What about her? I heard you two had words. My wife ran into her at the grocery store. Said she looked heartbroken. Marcus put a hand on Malik's shoulder. Listen, I know you're trying to build something here. I know what it costs to make it in spaces that weren't built for us. But don't lose yourself in the process, brother. Don't become the kind of man who forgets where he came from. I haven't forgotten anything, Malik snapped, shrugging off Marcus's hand. I just know where I'm going, and I'm not letting anyone hold me back, not even her. Marcus's expression shifted to something like disappointment. That woman worked 3 jobs to put you through college. She gave up everything for you. And I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life paying her back, living in her shadow, following her rules? Malik's voice was rising now, drawing stares from other lawyers passing by. When do I get to live my own life? When you figure out that honoring your mother isn't the same as living in her shadow. Marcus shook his head and walked away. Malik went back to his office and slammed the door. His hands were shaking. No, not just shaking. They were changing. He watched in horror as dark hair began to sprout along his knuckles. Coarse and thick. Animal hair. He grabbed his phone and called the only person he could think of. Not Destiny, not Marcus. His cousin Jamal, who still lived in the old neighborhood and had never let Malik forget where he came from. Yo, what's good? Jamal answered over the sound of street noise and music. Jamal, I need you to tell me the truth. Did Mama ever mess with spiritual stuff? Like seriously? There was a long pause. Why you asking? Just answer the question. Jamal sighed. Man, you know Mama Days comes from a long line of powerful women. Her grandmother was a healer back in the village. Her mother could see things before they happened. That's not messing with stuff, Malik. That's who we are. That's our blood. That's superstition. Is it? You remember when you got sick when you were 7? The doctors said you had 3 days to live. Mama took you to see an old woman who made you drink something that tasted like dirt and leaves. You were better the next morning. The doctors called it a miracle. But it wasn't. It was protection. It was power that runs deeper than any medicine your fancy hospitals can make. Malik looked at his hands again. The hair was receding, slowly, like it had never been there. But he'd seen it. He knew he'd seen it. There's an old woman, Malik said quietly. She's been at some of the wedding planning meetings. Always in the background. White clothes, cowrie shells. Destiny's family thinks she's just some vendor. But she watches me like she knows something. Jamal's voice dropped to a whisper. Describe her. Malik did. When he finished, Jamal was quiet for so long that Malik thought the call had dropped. Jamal? Malik, listen to me very carefully. That woman is not just anyone. If she's who I think she is, she's a guardian. She protects the old ways. She makes sure people remember that some lines shouldn't be crossed. And if she's watching you, Jamal trailed off. What did you do, cousin? What did you do to Mama? Nothing. We just argued. I told her I didn't want her traditions at my wedding. You rejected her. In front of witnesses, you denied your own blood. Jamal's voice was heavy with dread. Malik, you need to make this right. Today. Right now. Go to her. Apologize. Beg if you have to. Because if that old woman is involved, if she's decided you've crossed a line. What? What happens? There are stories, man, old stories, about men who disrespected their mothers, who forgot where they came from. They stopped being men. They became something else. Something that walks on 4 legs and howls at the moon. Something that can't remember its own name or feel human love ever again. Malik laughed, but it sounded hollow even to his own ears. You expect me to believe in werewolf stories? This is real life, Jamal. You called me asking about spiritual stuff. You're seeing things happen to your body. And you're telling me you don't believe. Jamal paused. The wedding is when? Tomorrow? The day after. Then you got 1 day, cousin. 1 day to fix this before it's too late. Go see Mama. Make it right. Or I promise you, the man who walks down that aisle won't be the man who walks away from it. The call ended. Malik sat in his office as the sun set outside his window, painting the city in shades of orange and red that looked like fire. His phone buzzed, a text from Destiny. Can't wait to marry you tomorrow, baby. This is going to be perfect. But Malik knew nothing was going to be perfect, because when he looked at his reflection in his computer screen, his eyes glowed amber in the darkness. Just for a second. Just long enough to know that Jamal wasn't telling stories. The curse was real, and time was running out. Malik had a choice to make. Pride or survival, his future or his past, the man he'd become or the son he'd always been. He made the wrong choice. If you were Malik, would you swallow your pride to save yourself? Or would you stand by your decisions no matter the cost? Drop your answer in the comments, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. The morning of the wedding arrived like a threat wrapped in silk. Malik woke up to find claw marks on his bedsheets, deep gouges that went all the way through to the mattress. His fingernails were normal now, perfectly manicured for the ceremony, but the evidence of what he'd become in his sleep was undeniable. Destiny was already gone, off to the salon with her bridesmaids. She'd left a note on her pillow. See you at the altar, husband. Today we start forever. Forever. The word tasted like ash in Malik's mouth. He should have gone to his mother yesterday. Jamal had been right, but instead Malik had convinced himself it was all stress, all in his head. He'd spent the evening at his bachelor party, drinking expensive whiskey and pretending everything was fine, while his friends congratulated him on escaping the struggle, on making it out, on becoming someone who mattered. Now, standing in front of his bathroom mirror, Malik saw the truth. His reflection flickered. One moment it was him in his designer pajamas. The next moment, something with fur and fangs stared back at him, with eyes that held no recognition, no memory, no humanity. "This isn't real," he whispered. "This isn't happening." But the thing in the mirror smiled, and its teeth were too sharp to belong to a man. His phone rang. Mama Adaz. He stared at her name on the screen, his thumb hovering over the answer button. This was his chance, his last chance. All he had to do was answer. Say he was sorry. Ask for her help. His pride was a living thing in his chest, coiled tight like a snake. It whispered to him in his own voice, "She should apologize to you. She's the one who tried to ruin your wedding with her backward traditions. She's the one who made you feel ashamed. Answer that phone, and you're admitting she was right. You're admitting you're still that poor kid from the South Side who needs his mother to save him." Malik let the call go to voicemail. 3 hours later, he stood at the altar of the Drake Hotel's grand ballroom. Crystal chandeliers hung overhead like frozen stars. 300 guests sat in chairs covered in white silk. The room smelled like money and roses. Everything was perfect. Everything was exactly as he'd planned. Except for the old woman in white sitting in the back row, her amber eyes fixed on him like a hawk watching a mouse. Except for his mother's empty seat in the front row. "Where's Mama Adaz?" Marcus whispered from his position as best man. "She wouldn't miss this." "She's probably running late," Malik lied. The truth was, he'd told his mother the ceremony started an hour later than it actually did. He'd wanted to be married, legally bound to destiny, before his mother arrived, before she could make a scene, before she could embarrass him one last time. The music started. Destiny appeared at the end of the aisle, a vision in white lace and diamonds. She looked like everything Malik had ever wanted. Success, beauty, acceptance, a future that had nothing to do with the past. But as she walked toward him, Malik felt his skin begin to burn. Not from the outside, from within, like his bones were on fire. He gritted his teeth and forced himself to smile. Just get through the ceremony, he told himself. Just say the words. Once you're married, once it's done, everything will be fine. The pastor, a jovial man with silver hair, began to speak. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today." The doors at the back of the hall burst open. Mama Adaz stood in the doorway, breathing hard like she'd been running. She wore her best dress, the blue one with gold threading that she saved for special occasions. Her hair was wrapped in a traditional jeel. She looked small and tired and completely out of place among the designer gowns and tailored suits. "Wait!" she called out, her voice cracking. "Please, wait!" 300 heads turned. Destiny froze halfway through her walk down the aisle. The bridesmaids gasped. Destiny's mother, a woman named Patricia, who'd made it clear she thought her daughter was marrying beneath her, stood up with an expression of pure horror. "Who is that woman?" Patricia demanded. "Security." "That's my mother," Malik said quietly. "What is she doing here?" Destiny whispered, though in the silent hall everyone heard her. "You said she understood. You said she was okay with everything." Mama Adaz walked down the aisle, her footsteps echoing on the marble floor. Tears streamed down her face. "Malik, my son, please listen to me. You're in danger. I had another dream. I saw what's happening to you. I know you don't believe, but you have to trust me. We can stop this. We can fix this. But not like this. Not with lies and shame between us." The old woman in white had risen from her seat. She stood perfectly still, watching, waiting. Malik felt something inside him snap. All the shame he'd buried, all the anger he'd swallowed, all the years of being told he wasn't good enough, wasn't white enough, wasn't rich enough, wasn't American enough. It all came flooding up like vomit. "You're embarrassing me," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "Again. Just like always. Malik, please. Get out." Mama Adaz reached for him, her hand trembling. "Baby, I love you. I'm trying to save you." "I don't need saving. I need you to leave me alone." Malik's voice rose to a shout. "My whole life you've held me back with your superstitions and your traditions and you're constant reminding me of where I came from. I'm done, Mama. I'm done being your burden. My burden? Mama Daisy's voice broke completely. You were never my burden. You were my purpose. Everything I did, every sacrifice, every prayer, it was all for you. And this is how you repay me? By denying me? By rejecting everything I am? Yes, Malik screamed. Yes, I reject it. I reject you. Mama Days raised her hand to touch his face, to cup his cheek the way she'd done when he was a child and needed comfort. And Malik, consumed by rage and pride and shame, slapped her hand away. Except his hand didn't stop at her hand. The momentum carried through. His palm connected with her face with a crack that echoed through the hall like a gunshot. Mama Diaz stumbled backward. Blood appeared at the corner of her mouth. The entire room gasped as one organism, and the old woman in white began to speak in a language that predated English, that predated the slave ships, that came from the red earth of Africa itself. Her voice filled the hall like thunder, and Malik felt his humanity begin to peel away like old paint. Have you ever said something in anger that you couldn't take back? Ever hurt someone who only wanted to help you? Think about it, and while you're thinking, hit that subscribe button. What do you think should happen to Malik now? Does he deserve a second chance, or has he gone too far? Let us know in the comments below. The morning of the wedding arrived like a threat wrapped in silk. Malik woke up to find claw marks on his bedsheets, deep gouges that went all the way through to the mattress. His fingernails were normal now, perfectly manicured for the ceremony, but the evidence of what he'd become in his sleep was undeniable. Destiny was already gone, off to the salon with her bridesmaids. She'd left a note on her pillow. See you at the altar, husband. Today we start forever. Forever. The word tasted like ash in Malik's mouth. He should have gone to his mother yesterday. Jamal had been right, but instead Malik had convinced himself it was all stress, all in his head. He'd spent the evening at his bachelor party drinking expensive whiskey and pretending everything was fine, while his friends congratulated him on escaping the struggle, on making it out, on becoming someone who mattered. Now, standing in front of his bathroom mirror, Malik saw the truth. His reflection flickered. One moment it was him in his designer pajamas. The next moment, something with fur and fangs stared back at him with eyes that held no recognition, no memory, no humanity. This isn't real, he whispered. This isn't happening. But the thing in the mirror smiled, and its teeth were too sharp to belong to a man. His phone rang. Mama Adaz. He stared at her name on the screen, his thumb hovering over the answer button. This was his chance, his last chance. All he had to do was answer. Say he was sorry, ask for her help. His pride was a living thing in his chest, coiled tight like a snake. It whispered to him in his own voice. She should apologize to you. She's the one who tried to ruin your wedding with her backward traditions. She's the one who made you feel ashamed. Answer that phone, and you're admitting she was right. You're admitting you're still that poor kid from the South Side who needs his mother to save him. Malik let the call go to voicemail. 3 hours later, he stood at the altar of the Drake Hotel's grand ballroom. Crystal chandeliers hung overhead like frozen stars. 300 guests sat in chairs covered in white silk. The room smelled like money and roses. Everything was perfect. Everything was exactly as he'd planned. Except for the old woman in white sitting in the back row, her amber eyes fixed on him like a hawk watching a mouse. Except for his mother's empty seat in the front row. Where's Mama Adaz? Marcus whispered from his position as best man. She wouldn't miss this. She's probably running late, Malik lied. The truth was he'd told his mother the ceremony started an hour later than it actually did. He'd wanted to be married, legally bound to destiny, before his mother arrived, before she could make a scene, before she could embarrass him one last time. The music started. Destiny appeared at the end of the aisle, a vision in white lace and diamonds. She looked like everything Malik had ever wanted. Success, beauty, acceptance, a future that had nothing to do with the past. But as she walked toward him, Malik felt his skin begin to burn. Not from the outside, from within, like his bones were on fire. He gritted his teeth and forced himself to smile. Just get through the ceremony, he told himself. Just say the words. Once you're married, once it's done, everything will be fine. The pastor, a jovial man with silver hair, began to speak. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today. The doors at the back of the hall burst open. Mama Adai stood in the doorway, breathing hard like she'd been running. She wore her best dress, the blue one with gold threading that she saved for special occasions. Her hair was wrapped in a traditional jowl. She looked small and tired and completely out of place among the designer gowns and tailored suits. Wait, she called out, her voice cracking. Please, wait. 300 heads turned. Destiny froze halfway through her walk down the aisle. The bridesmaids gasped. Destiny's mother, a woman named Patricia, who'd made it clear she thought her daughter was marrying beneath her, stood up with an expression of pure horror. Who is that woman? Patricia demanded. Security. That's my mother, Malik said quietly. What is she doing here? Destiny whispered, though in the silent hall, everyone heard her. You said she understood. You said she was okay with everything. Mama Adaze walked down the aisle, her footsteps echoing on the marble floor. Tears streamed down her face. Malik, my son, please listen to me. You're in danger. I had another dream. I saw what's happening to you. I know you don't believe, but you have to trust me. We can stop this. We can fix this. But not like this. Not with lies and shame between us. The old woman in white had risen from her seat. She stood perfectly still, watching, waiting. Malik felt something inside him snap. All the shame he'd buried, all the anger he'd swallowed, all the years of being told he wasn't good enough, wasn't white enough, wasn't rich enough, wasn't American enough. It all came flooding up like vomit. You're embarrassing me, he said, his voice low and dangerous. Again, just like always. Malik, please, get out. Mama Adaze reached for him, her hand trembling. Baby, I love you. I'm trying to save you. I don't need saving. I need you to leave me alone. Malek's voice rose to a shout. My whole life, you've held me back with your superstitions and your traditions and your constant reminding me of where I came from. I'm done, Mama. I'm done being your burden. My burden? Mama Daisy's voice broke completely. You were never my burden. You were my purpose. Everything I did, every sacrifice, every prayer, it was all for you. And this is how you repay me? By denying me? By rejecting everything I am? Yes, Malik screamed. Yes, I reject it. I reject you. Mama Dice raised her hand to touch his face, to cup his cheek the way she'd done when he was a child and needed comfort. And Malik, consumed by rage and pride and shame, slapped her hand away. Except his hand didn't stop at her hand. The momentum carried through. His palm connected with her face with a crack that echoed through the hall like a gunshot. Mama Adaze stumbled backward. Blood appeared at the corner of her mouth. The entire room gasped as one organism. And the old woman in white began to speak in a language that predated English, that predated the slave ships, that came from the red earth of Africa itself. Her voice filled the hall like thunder, and Malik felt his humanity begin to peel away like old paint. Have you ever said something in anger that you couldn't take back? Ever hurt someone who only wanted to help you? Think about it. And while you're thinking, hit that subscribe button because next is going to show you the true price of pride, and it's higher than you can possibly imagine. What do you think should happen to Malik now? Does he deserve a second chance, or has he gone too far? Let us know in the comments below. The transformation didn't happen all at once. That would have been a mercy. Instead, it came in waves, each one more agonizing than the last. Malik felt his spine elongate, vertebrae popping like fireworks. His jaw stretched, teeth sharpening into points that cut his own tongue. He tried to scream, but the sound that came out was something between a human cry and an animal's howl. Oh my God! Destiny dropped her bouquet and backed away, her white dress swishing around her legs. What's happening to him? The guests erupted into chaos. People scrambled out of their seats, trampling over silk chair covers and expensive floral arrangements in their rush to get away. Patricia grabbed Destiny and tried to pull her toward the exit, but Destiny couldn't look away from the man she'd been about to marry. Malik fell to his knees, his tailored tuxedo splitting at the seams as his body expanded. Dark hair sprouted across his skin, thick and coarse. His hands, the hands that had signed million-dollar contracts and driven a Mercedes and held Destiny's face when he kissed her, were becoming paws. Claws pushed through where his fingernails had been, sharp and curved and deadly. "Make it stop!" Malik gasped, his voice distorting. "Please, make it stop." The old woman in white approached slowly, her cowrie shells clicking with each step. She stood over him, her amber eyes blazing with ancient power. "You were warned," she said simply, "by your blood, by your dreams, by your own mother's tears. But you chose pride over love. You chose shame over honor. Now you will learn what it means to lose your humanity." Mama Days was still standing there, blood on her lip, tears streaming down her face. She took a step toward her son, but Marcus grabbed her arm. "Don't," Marcus said gently. "It's too late." "It's never too late." Mama Ades pulled free and rushed to Malik, dropping to her knees beside him. "My baby, my son, I forgive you. Do you hear me? I forgive you." But Malik couldn't hear her anymore. His ears were changing shape, moving up the sides of his head. His thoughts were fracturing, scattering like glass. He tried to remember his mother's name, but could only remember the smell of her, the sound of her heartbeat. Human words were dissolving, replaced by instinct and hunger and fear. The old woman raised her staff, and suddenly everyone in the room froze. Not physically, but like time itself had stopped for everyone except Malik, his mother, and the guardian. "There is a way," the old woman said, looking at Mama Daisy, "but it will cost you everything." "Anything," Mama Daisy said immediately. "Take anything. My life, my soul, whatever you need. Not your life, your memory." The old woman's voice was sad now, heavy with the weight of countless stories just like this one. "If you want to save him, you must give up all memory of him, every birthday, every scraped knee you bandaged, every bedtime story, every tear you wiped away, every sacrifice you made. It will all be gone, like he never existed. You will wake up tomorrow and not know you ever had a son, and he will return to human form, but he will remember. He will remember everything, including what he lost, what he threw away." Mama Days didn't hesitate. "Do it." "Mama, no." Malik's voice was barely human anymore, but he understood. He finally understood. "Please, no. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "I know you are, baby." Mama Daisy cupped his distorted face with both hands, looking into eyes that were more animal than human. "I know. And that's why I'm doing this. Because that's what mothers do. We save our children, even when they don't deserve it. Even when they hurt us. Even when it costs us everything." The old woman touched her staff to Mama Dasi's forehead. Light blazed, white and pure and terrible. Mama Adisi's eyes went distant, unfocused. She blinked slowly, looking at Malik like she was trying to remember something important, but couldn't quite grasp it. "Who are you?" she whispered. Those 3 words broke something in Malik that the curse hadn't touched. The last piece of his soul that was still human shattered into dust. He watched as his mother stood up, confused, and walked away. She didn't look back. She didn't know there was anything to look back for. Time started moving again. The guests unfroze, still panicking, still running. But Malik's transformation had reversed. He was human again, kneeling on the floor in his torn tuxedo, sobbing like a child. Destiny stood at a distance, her face pale. "I can't marry you," she said quietly. "I don't even know who you are." She left too. So did everyone else, the groomsmen, the bridesmaids, the guests. They fled the ballroom like it was on fire, leaving behind only overturned chairs and crushed flowers and the ghost of a celebration that would never be. Marcus was the last to go. He paused at the door and looked back at Malik. "I hope it was worth it, brother. I really do." Then Malik was alone with the old woman in white. "Why?" Malik asked, his voice raw. "Why didn't you just let me turn? Let me become an animal completely? That would have been easier than this." "Because this is the real curse," the old woman said. "To be human, but to live with what you've done. To remember your mother's love and know that she no longer remembers yours. To carry that weight every single day for the rest of your life. That is justice. That is consequence. She turned to leave, but Malik called out, "Wait, can I, can I ever earn it back? Her memory of me?" The old woman paused. "Perhaps, but not through success or money or pride. Only through becoming the man she believed you could be. The man she sacrificed everything to raise. Whether you can do that," she shrugged, "that is up to you." Then she was gone, and Malik was alone in the ruins of his perfect wedding. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands and called his mother. She answered on the third ring. "Hello? Mama, it's me. It's Malik." A pause. "I'm sorry, I think you have the wrong number. I don't know anyone named Malik." The line went dead. Malik sat in the empty ballroom as the sun set outside the tall windows, painting everything in shades of orange and red. He'd lost everything: his bride, his reputation, his mother's love. And for what? For pride, for shame, for the desperate need to be someone other than who he was. The question now was simple. Could he find his way back? Could he become worthy of a love that no longer remembered him? He didn't know, but for the first time in years, Malik understood what actually mattered, and that understanding came too late to save him from the consequences of forgetting it. If you could give up all your memories to save someone you love, would you do it? That's real love, the kind that costs everything. If this story is touching your heart, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. We're bringing you more powerful stories like this one every week. Share this with someone who needs to remember what really matters in life. What do you think Malik should do next? Can he redeem himself? Drop your predictions in the comments. 6 months passed like a prison sentence. Malik lost his job 3 weeks after the wedding that never was. The story had spread through the office like wildfire. Someone had filmed the whole thing on their phone. And though the transformation itself hadn't been captured, the slap heard around the world was everywhere. YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Malik became a cautionary tale, a meme, a monster. "Man who slapped his mother at his own wedding," the headlines read. The comments were merciless. Thousands of strangers calling him every name imaginable, wishing curses upon him that had already come true. Henderson and Associates let him go quietly. "It's not about the incident," his former boss said, though they both knew it was a lie. "We're restructuring. You understand." Destiny's family threatened to sue him for the cost of the wedding. He settled out of court, draining his savings account to nothing. The Mercedes got repossessed. His downtown apartment became a studio in a building that smelled like mildew and disappointment, not far from the neighborhood where he'd grown up. Marcus was the only person from his old life who still spoke to him, and even that was rare. "You need help, man," Marcus said over coffee one gray afternoon. "Professional help. Therapy." "Therapy can't fix what's wrong with me," Malik said, staring into his cup. "Maybe not, but it's a start." Malik went because he had nothing left to lose. Dr. Yolanda Chen's office was small and warm, filled with plants and soft lighting. She was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a direct way of speaking that reminded him painfully of his mother. "Tell me about Adaisi," Dr. Chen said during their third session. "Who?" "Your mother, Mama Adaisi. You've mentioned her 12 times in the last 2 sessions, but you've never used her name." Malik's hands clenched. "She doesn't remember me. What's the point of talking about her?" "The point is that you remember her, and you're carrying that weight alone." Dr. Chen leaned forward. "Malik, you did something terrible. We've established that. But you're not the first person to hurt someone they love, and you won't be the last. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" "There's nothing I can do. She doesn't know I exist." "So you'll just give up? Accept that this is who you are now? A man defined by his worst moment?" Dr. Chen shook her head. "I don't believe that, and I don't think you do either, or you wouldn't be here." That night, Malik did something he hadn't done since he was a child. He prayed, not to the God of the church's Destiny's family attended, but to the ancestors his mother had always honored. He knelt in front of a small table in his studio apartment and lit a candle the way he'd seen his mother do 1,000 times. "I don't know if anyone is listening," he said into the darkness. "I don't know if I deserve to be heard. But if you're out there, if you're real, please help me. Help me become the man my mother believed I could be. Help me earn back what I threw away." The candle flame flickered but didn't go out, and Malik felt something shift inside him. Not forgiveness, not redemption. Just the smallest spark of possibility. The next morning, he went to his mother's apartment building. He'd been there a dozen times in the past 6 months, always watching from across the street, never approaching. She lived her life like he'd never existed. He'd seen her leave for her nursing shifts, return with groceries, sit on her small balcony in the evenings. She looked peaceful, maybe even happier without the burden of a son who'd disappointed her. But today, Malik crossed the street. He climbed the 5 flights of stairs and knocked on her door. Mama Adais answered, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She looked at him with polite confusion. "Can I help you?" "I'm from the community center," Malik lied, the words tumbling out. "We're organizing volunteers to help seniors with home repairs, grocery shopping, things like that. Would you be interested?" It was pathetic. It was desperate. But it was all he had. Mama Dazi's face lit up with a smile that stabbed Malik in the heart. "Really? That's so kind. Come in, come in." For the next 3 months, Malik became a ghost in his mother's life. He fixed her leaky faucet. He carried her groceries. He sat with her in the evenings and listened to her stories about her childhood in Nigeria. Stories he'd heard 100 times but now treasured like gold. She had no idea she was telling them to her son. To her, he was just Marcus. He'd given her a fake name, another lie on top of all the others. But something was happening. Something was changing. Not in his mother, who still didn't remember him, but in Malik himself. He started volunteering at the community center for real, not as a cover story. He helped kids with their homework. He organized food drives. He learned the names of the old women who sat on their stoops, the ones he'd walked past for years without seeing. He went back to church, not the fancy one Destiny's family attended, but the small storefront church his mother had taken him to as a child. Pastor Williams, ancient and wise, welcomed him back without judgment. "The prodigal son returns," Pastor Williams said, gripping Malik's hand. "I'm not sure I deserve to be called a son anymore," Malik replied. "That's not for you to decide. That's for God and your mother. Your job is just to keep walking, keep trying, keep becoming." One evening, Malik was at his mother's apartment helping her organize her medicine cabinet when she suddenly went very still. She was holding a photograph, one Malik had never seen before. It showed a young boy, maybe 7 years old, laughing at the camera with gap-toothed joy. "Marcus," she said slowly, "do you believe in ghosts?" Malik's heart stopped. "What do you mean?" "I keep having this feeling, like I'm forgetting something important, like there's a hole in my life shaped like a person." She looked at the photograph. "I found this in a box in my closet. I don't remember this child. I don't remember taking this picture. But when I look at it, I feel love. So much love it hurts." Tears were streaming down Malik's face before he could stop them. "Maybe," he said carefully, "maybe that child knows you love him, even if you can't remember." Mama Daz turned to look at him fully for the first time. Really look at him. Her eyes traveled across his face like she was reading a book in a language she'd forgotten. "Marcus, why are you crying?" "Because," Malik whispered, "some loves are too strong to be completely erased. Some bonds run deeper than memory." She reached up and touched his face, the same way she'd done on the day he'd slapped her. Her fingers traced his cheekbone, his jaw. "You have kind eyes," she said softly. "Sad but kind. Like someone who's lost something precious and is trying to find it again." "I am," Malik said. "I really am." That night after he left his mother's apartment, Malik saw her, the old woman in white, standing on the corner under a streetlight. She nodded at him slowly, and in her amber eyes he saw something that might have been approval. "How much longer?" Malik called out. "How much longer until she remembers?" "That depends on you," the old woman said. "How much longer until you become worthy of being remembered?" She disappeared into the night, leaving Malik alone with the question that would define the rest of his life. He was changing, slowly, painfully, but he was changing. The man who'd slapped his mother at his wedding was dying, and someone new, someone better, was struggling to be born in his place. Whether that new man would be enough to break the curse, Malik didn't know. But for the first time since that terrible day, he had hope. And hope, he was learning, was a kind of grace. What's the hardest thing you've ever had to do to make things right? Sometimes the journey back to who we're supposed to be is longer and harder than we ever imagined. Will Malik break the curse? Will his mother remember? Share your theories in the comments and share this video with anyone who needs to hear that it's never too late to change. 1 year after the wedding that destroyed his life, Malik stood outside his mother's apartment building in the rain. In his hands, he held a small package wrapped in brown paper. Inside was the photograph his mother had found, the one of him as a 7-year-old boy, along with something else, something that had taken him months to create. He'd written her a letter, not as Marcus, the helpful volunteer from the community center, but as Malik, her son. He'd poured everything into those pages, every memory, every regret, every moment of love he'd taken for granted. He didn't know if she'd read it. He didn't know if it would change anything. But Dr. Chen had told him that healing required truth, even painful truth. You can't build a real relationship on lies, Dr. Chen had said in their last session, even if the truth costs you everything again. Malik climbed the stairs slowly, his heart hammering. He'd rehearsed what he would say 1,000 times, but now that the moment was here, all his words felt inadequate. How do you apologize for the unforgivable? How do you ask for something you have no right to expect? He knocked on the door. Mama Days opened it with a smile that still broke his heart every time he saw it. Marcus, I wasn't expecting you today. Come in, come in. I just made some chin-chin. You have to try it while it's fresh. Mama, I need to talk to you. Malik's voice cracked. Please, can we sit down? Something in his tone made her pause. The smile faded from her face, replaced by concern. What's wrong? Are you okay? They sat at her small kitchen table, the same table where Malik had eaten breakfast before school for 18 years, the same table where his mother had taught him to write his name, to do his homework, to pray before meals. Every inch of this apartment held memories that only one of them could access. My name isn't Marcus, Malik said, his hands shaking. It's Malik Okonkwo, and I'm your son. Mama Adai's went very still. What are you talking about? 1 year ago I was getting married. You came to my wedding to warn me about something, to protect me, and I was so ashamed, so angry, so proud that He couldn't say it. Even now, the words stuck in his throat like broken glass. You what? Her voice was barely a whisper. I hit you, in front of everyone. I rejected you. I rejected everything you'd sacrificed for me, and because of that, a curse was placed on me. The old woman, the guardian, she gave you a choice. You could save me, but only if you gave up all memory of me. And you did. You gave up everything to save a son who didn't deserve it. Mama Das was shaking her head, backing away from the table. No, this is crazy. I don't have a son. I would remember. A mother doesn't forget her child. You don't forget because you don't want to, Malik said, tears streaming down his face. You forget because you love me so much that you were willing to lose everything to save me. That's the kind of mother you are. That's the kind of love you gave me. And I threw it away because I was more concerned with being successful than being good. More concerned with impressing people who didn't matter than honoring the one person who did. He pushed the package across the table. I wrote everything down. Every memory I have of you, every birthday cake you made even when we couldn't afford it, every time you worked double shifts so I could have new school clothes, every prayer you said over me, every sacrifice, it's all in here. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to forgive me. But I needed you to know the truth. I needed you to know that somewhere in this world, there's a son who loves you more than anything, even if you can't remember him. Mama Dashi stared at the package like it might explode. Her hands trembled as she reached for it, then pulled back. If what you're saying is true, if I really did forget you, maybe I forgot for a reason. Maybe some things are better left buried. Maybe, Malik admitted, maybe you're happier without me. Maybe I should have stayed away. But Dr. Chen, my therapist, she told me that real change requires honesty. And I've been lying to you for months, pretending to be someone else, just so I could be near you. That's not love. That's selfishness. So I'm giving you the choice I should have given you a year ago. The choice to know the truth and decide for yourself what to do with it. He stood up, his legs unsteady. I'm going to leave now. You can read the letter or throw it away. You can call me or never speak to me again. Whatever you choose, I'll respect it. But I want you to know that for the last year, I've been trying to become the man you believed I could be. I volunteer at the community center 5 days a week. I mentor kids from the neighborhood. I go to church. I help anyone who needs it. Not because I'm trying to earn back what I lost, but because you taught me that's what good people do. Even if you never remember me, even if I never hear your voice again, I'll keep doing it, because that's the gift you gave me. The knowledge of how to love someone more than you love yourself. He walked to the door, each step feeling like he was leaving pieces of his soul behind. His hand was on the doorknob when he heard her voice. Wait. Malik turned. Mama Days was holding the package, tears running down her face. I've been having dreams, she said quietly. For months now. Dreams of a little boy calling me mama. Dreams of birthdays and Christmases and a graduation where I'm crying because I'm so proud. I kept telling myself they were just dreams. But they felt like memories, like echoes of something real. She opened the package with shaking hands and pulled out the letter. As she read, her tears fell faster, dropping onto the pages, smudging the ink. She looked at the photograph, then at Malik, then back at the photograph. I see it now, she whispered. Your eyes. That little boy has your eyes. Malik's knees gave out. He collapsed against the door, sobbing. I'm so sorry, Mama. I'm so sorry. Mama Adaze stood and walked to him slowly, like she was approaching something fragile that might break. She knelt down in front of him and did what she'd done 1,000 times before, what mothers have done since the beginning of time. She pulled him into her arms and held him while he cried. I can't remember, she said, her own voice thick with tears. I'm reading these words and they make sense. They feel true, but I can't remember living them. It's like trying to recall a dream after you've woken up. The feeling is there, but the details are gone. I know, Malik said. I know, and I don't expect anything from you. I don't deserve anything from you. Stop, Mama Adaze said firmly, pulling back to look at him. Stop saying that. I don't remember being your mother, but I'm looking at you right now, and I see a man who's hurting, a man who's trying, a man who spent a year volunteering and helping and changing, not because anyone was watching, but because he wanted to be better. That man deserves compassion. That man deserves a second chance. She cupped his face in her hands, just like she'd done on that terrible day. I can't give you back what we lost. Those memories are gone, and maybe they're gone forever. But I can give you something else. I can give you today, and tomorrow, and every day after that. We can build something new. Not mother and son, maybe, not yet, but two people who care about each other. Two people who are trying to do better. Is that enough? Malik looked into her eyes and saw no recognition there. No memory of the boy she'd raised or the man he'd become. But he saw something else. He saw the same love she'd always had, the same compassion, the same grace. It wasn't the same as before. It would never be the same, but it was real. And it was offered freely, without conditions, without demands for payment. It's more than enough, Malik whispered. It's everything. The old woman in white appeared in the doorway, though neither of them had heard her knock. Her amber eyes glowed softly in the dim apartment light. The curse is broken, she said simply. But she still doesn't remember, Malik said. No, some things once lost cannot be fully restored, but you have learned what you needed to learn. That love is not about what you receive, but what you give. That honor is not about appearance, but about character. That being human means accepting your failures and choosing to grow from them anyway. She looked at Mama Days. And you, daughter of healers, you demonstrated the ultimate love. To give everything for someone who hurt you. To sacrifice your own joy for another's redemption. That is the love that changes the world. The old woman raised her staff, and the air shimmered. I cannot restore what was taken, but I can give you this. As you build this new relationship, the old memories will surface like sunlight through water. Not all at once. Not completely. but in moments, in dreams, in the space between sleep and waking. You will remember fragments, enough to know that what was lost was real, enough to know that what you're building now is sacred. Then she was gone, leaving mother and son alone in the small apartment that smelled like chin-chin and second chances. Over the next months and years, it happened just as the old woman promised. Mama Adasi would be cooking jollof rice and suddenly remember teaching a little boy to crack palm nuts. She'd be folding laundry and recall a teenage Malik practicing his valedictorian speech in front of the mirror. The memories came like gifts, precious and rare, and each one was celebrated like a small miracle. Malik never forgot what he'd lost or what he'd done. The weight of it lived in his chest like a stone. But he learned to carry it. He learned that redemption wasn't about erasing your mistakes, but about refusing to let them define your future. He continued volunteering. He started a nonprofit helping first-generation college students navigate the challenges he'd once faced. He never got rich again, never chased the success that had once consumed him. But he became something better. He became the man his mother had always believed he could be. 5 years after that terrible wedding day, Malik sat on his mother's small balcony watching the sunset. Mama Adazi brought out 2 cups of tea and sat beside him. "I remembered something today," she said softly. "You were 7 years old, and you came home crying because some kids at school made fun of your accent. I held you and told you that your voice was beautiful, that it carried the voices of your ancestors, and you should never be ashamed of where you came from." Malik's throat tightened. "What did I say?" "You said, 'But Mama, I just want to be normal.' And I told you that normal was overrated, that extraordinary was better, that you were destined for great things." She smiled, but it was tinged with sadness. "I was right. You were destined for great things. You just had to lose everything to find them." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun painted the sky in shades of orange and gold. Malik thought about the man he'd been, so desperate to escape his past that he'd destroyed his future. He thought about the woman beside him who'd loved him enough to forget him. He thought about the long, hard road from that wedding day to this quiet evening. "Mama," he said finally, "thank you for saving me. Not just from the curse, but from myself." Mama Days reached over and took his hand. Her grip was strong, sure, full of a love that had survived even when memory couldn't. "That's what mothers do, baby. We save our children, over and over again, for as long as we live." And in that moment, Malik finally understood what it meant to be human. Not success, not achievement, not the approval of others, but this: connection, sacrifice, the willingness to keep trying even when you fail, the courage to accept love you don't deserve and let it transform you into someone who might, someday, be worthy of it. He'd slapped his mother at his wedding and lost everything that made him human. But in losing everything, he'd found something more valuable than he'd ever known he needed. He'd found himself, the real self, the one his mother had always seen, even when he couldn't see it himself. And that was worth more than any wedding, any career, any amount of money or status or success could ever be. That was everything. This story hit different, didn't it? Sometimes we have to lose everything to find what really matters. If this touched your heart, smash that like button and subscribe to this channel, because we're bringing you more powerful, life-changing stories every single week. Hit that notification bell so you never miss one. Now I want to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever had to choose between pride and love? Have you ever hurt someone you care about and had to find your way back? What did you learn from it? Share your story below, because your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And please share this video with your family and friends. You never know who needs to hear this message about humility, redemption, and the power of a mother's love. Thank you for watching, and remember, it's never too late to become who you were meant to be. Until next time, keep choosing love over pride and honor over shame.